If you feel like meditation just doesn't work for you, or if you've tried to meditate and all it did was leave you more frustrated and confused, this video is for you. Now, you're not alone in wondering, why is meditation so hard for me? But what might be especially frustrating is hearing how good it's supposed to be for you. It's been pretty well established scientifically at this point that there are a lot of benefits to meditation. For example, one 2017 meta-analysis of 26 studies with more than 1,700 total participants found that meditation can help increase pro-social behaviors, empathy, and compassion. It's also been found to help with mental health, with studies demonstrating that it can alleviate symptoms of depression or mitigate symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. It can even help with chronic pain, improved academic performance, improved memory, enhanced focus and concentration, and all of these promises that are made by a meditation practice, right? This list is not exhaustive, but I think you probably get the point. So the benefits are well established, but why is it so hard then? If it works for all of these other people, why doesn't it work for me? The top reasons that I have observed that people say that meditation doesn't work for them is one, they're uncomfortable sitting still for very long. Now, this might be an effect of pain from sitting for too long physically in their bodies, or it might just be feeling really antsy with boredom or feeling uncomfortable with stillness, uncomfortable with settling into the silence. Just plain discomfort with how different it is to go from our go, go, go world to staring at the back of your eyelids. Gives you whiplash, right? So being uncomfortable sitting still for very long for all of these subsets of reasons is probably top reason number one. The other reason is people say, my mind won't stop thinking. They sit down, close their eyes, try to meditate, and feel like their mind is bouncing everywhere. Total monkey mind, totally worried about what happened today, what's going to happen tomorrow, what he said, what she said. The mind will not slow down. And in turn, or in tandem, maybe people get frustrated that I don't know how to clear my mind. Now, the reality is, a lot of people experience both of those simultaneously, both feeling uncomfortable sitting long enough to effectively meditate and not being able to settle their mind in to actually enjoy the experience of meditating. Now, this is a stark contrast to the expectation that you're going to close your eyes and feel instant bliss, instant serenity. It would be nice, right? Now, that's kind of a tall order. So we have a couple options, right? We can sit with that discomfort and choose to become consistent with a meditation practice in spite of it, choosing to power through despite feeling like it's not getting you there. That's an option that people do have success with, especially considering there are a lot of different styles that might better suit some people than others. For example, there's Vipassana meditation, sometimes called insight meditation, where you're staying mindful of your breath, your body, your sensations, and your thoughts, sitting still, maybe cross-legged, maybe on a cushion. Another popular offshoot inspired by Vipassana meditation is mindful meditation, popularized by mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR. Now, this is really common because it's often used in therapy and healthcare and workplace settings. It's very secular, so it's very approachable for the masses. Similar to Vipassana, it's meant to have you observe the breath, your bodily sensations, your emotions, and your thoughts without judgment. Even more, there's transcendental meditation, self-compassion meditation, loving kindness meditation, focused attention meditation, even visualization meditations. So there's a lot of different pathways that one might take if they decide that they want to power through amidst that struggle or amidst that discomfort with sitting, staring at the back of their eyelids. And aids can help with this too, right? A lot of people use apps and guided meditations to help them get there. A few popular ones are Calm and Headspace. There are also apps propped up by celebrities or thought leaders, such as the Chopra app by Deepak Chopra, that's a little more spirituality leaning, or Waking Up by Sam Harris, that's more secular leaning. My personal favorite of these apps is Insight Timer, mostly because they have both guided meditations and other versatile types of content from a really diverse set of teachers. It's very multi-tradition. There's a lot of pros to Insight Timer, if you ask me. So that would be my tip. You don't need to pay for it either. The free version is outstanding. So you can power through, make it happen, force it to happen. Maybe make use of these aids, maybe find a tradition that works for you. But the reality is, a lot of people just quit. They experience how difficult it is and they say, this is not for me. I'm not cut out for meditation. But what if there were a way of accessing the stillness and the calmness and the deep meditation without feeling like you're pushing a big boulder up a hill to get there? In other words, think of it as when you go to the airport and you're trying to get to the gate way over there with your big, heavy carry-on bag. Would you rather take a tram or the moving walkway? Or would you rather hoof it all the way there, lugging your heavy carry-on bags all of that way with you? That's where yoga comes in. Yoga is meant to prepare not just the body, but also the mind, the breath, your whole energetic and physical system to sit comfortably in meditation. That monkey mind that you're experiencing, that's making it impossible to sit in seated meditation, staring at the back of your eyelids, it's actually a cue that there's some kind of imbalance in your system. Now, that's not a personal failure, and it's also not a moral failure. It's just a reality of living in a human body, and it's a starting point for your practice. Now, what can yoga do? How does it get there? Through linking breath and movement, bringing alignment into these areas of our systems, the rest of the system can't help but follow, also falling into alignment. So theoretically, then, you'd go to your yoga class and reach samadhi by the end of class, this deepest stage of meditation, total dissolution of your ego, where only pure awareness remains.
Wow!
Good luck. If it's that simple, why is it that so many people are checking their watch, trying to sneak out the door, frustrated with the final shavasana at the end of a yoga class? So here's the catch. Yoga was never actually meant to be one size fits all. So, if you're going to a regular studio class, it may actually be working against what you, as a unique individual, needs. You might be making it more difficult to find balance. For example, maybe you're someone who runs too hot. Your nervous system is overactivated, there's excess fire, your pitta is out of balance, whatever way you want to look at that. And then you go to hot yoga classes regularly, where you are kicking that fire that's already in high gear even further into high gear. That may be bringing your system further out of balance, and in turn, making it more difficult to meditate. Now, this is not to mention that some practices look really badass on the outside, but they're actually not exactly supporting the integrity in your system. You can get into a really spectacular back bend, but really you're dumping all of that bend into your lumbar spine and continue to stay really locked up here in your thoracic spine. Maybe you can fold yourself into a very bendy forward fold, Paschimottanasana, but actually, like me, you deal with hypermobility and continue to deal with chronic pain because the integrity of the posture really isn't there, even though you're practicing yoga every day or almost every day. And science does support the idea that not all yoga is the same. People genuinely do get hurt, despite the practitioner and the teacher's best intentions. One 2018 review looked at data from 9 different studies. involving over 9,000 people who practiced yoga and about 9,900 who didn't. They found that about 23% of yoga practitioners had some kind of issue or discomfort during a class. Over the course of a year, about 4.6% had an injury or a problem related to yoga. Now, the study did find that most of these issues were somewhat minor, but considering that it did find that over an entire lifetime of practice, between 21 and 62% said they'd experienced some kind of yoga-related issue at some point, and 2% of people reporting serious adverse issues due to practicing yoga, something ain't right here. If this is meant to be a therapeutic and supportive intervention, and it actually ends up harming people, maybe this is just my own starry-eyed expectations, but I would hope to see those numbers of people who get harmed in a therapeutic practice somewhat closer to zero, hopefully. That would be closer to zero would be great. And this is where the Viniyoga tradition comes in. Now, Viniyoga, not a lot of people have heard of it, so let's break down what it means. Viniyoga translates or means appropriate application or adaptation. So the idea is that yoga must be applied in a way that's appropriate to the individual, not the masses. Not what looks cool, but the actual person who is practicing. Overall, Viniyoga is a comprehensive therapeutic approach that adapts yoga's tools to the unique needs, abilities, and goals of the individual. It's rooted in the teachings of T. Krishnamacharya and his son TKV Desikachar, who is my teacher's teacher's teacher. Say that 3 times fast. It emphasizes personal transformation over performance, and the priority is breath, function, and self-awareness. The shape of the pose is not the goal. The purpose, instead, is how that asana or any of the other tools affects the practitioner, their state, their patterns, how they feel. The postures are all modified. Maybe that's doing with the range of motion, the stance, additional supports needed. All of this is modified to suit that person's needs and context. But a lot of it is guided by breath-centered movement, where the breath leads and organizes, or shall we say carries, every movement. And it's often synchronized with spinal movement, inhaling on the opening, extending postures, and exhaling on the postures that are kind of closing off or inflection. Overall, special attention is given to the length, the direction, and the quality of breath in every practice. In my opinion, far and beyond what you'll encounter in a typical Viniyoga class or even another Hatha Yoga tradition.
Hi, editing Madeline here. I said a typical Viniyoga class just now, but what I really meant was a typical vinyasa class, like a vinyasa flow or something you're likely to encounter at your local Y or your local gym. Okay, back to the video.
Now, in addition to this breath-centered movement, there's a lot of use of pairing of dynamic and static postures. So rather than such as in a vinyasa class where you're flowing, 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 and you never get the chance to really feel how any one given motion feels or lands in your system, the postures in Viniyoga are done often repetitively or dynamically before being held. That's the static part. This repetition helps to prepare the body and the nervous system, retrain your movement patterns, and deepen your awareness. Now, overall, again, the goal is for this to be individually adapted. The practices are designed based on maybe someone's age, their health, their lifestyle, their constitution, goals, injuries, their capacities, even just their interests. And what I really like about Viniyoga is, again, we're tailoring these practices suited to what the individual finds accessible and enjoyable. And this means we're not just using asana or the physical postures, we're also drawing from pranayama or breath regulation, meditation, chanting or mantra, philosophical study, and lifestyle and ethical reflection. So it is a very, very comprehensive yoga that is so much less fitness oriented than many yogas that have been co-opted by the West tend to be. So you might come to the conclusion that the ideal would be every person who practices yoga out there working one-on-one with a yoga therapist or a yoga mentor to create a daily practice that's totally tailored to you, totally tailored to your unique imbalances, interests, needs, wants, limitations. This is, in my own experience working with a mentor, the moving walkway. This is the fast track to finding balance in one's own system so that meditation becomes even more accessible and rewarding. But let's be realistic, shall we? Not everyone is going to do that. There are very real barriers to entry that make it prohibitive for a lot of beginners who are interested but maybe not totally sold yet, including money, time, and the mere fact that there's not a lot of Viniyoga teachers or a lot of yoga therapists out there in the grand scheme of things. Now, there are some common problems that people in human bodies experience somewhat more universally. It is possible to find common ground in a shared practice through addressing needs such as needing greater stability in the core and lower back, releasing tension in the neck and shoulders, and learning how to breathe in a way that balances the sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system and any nervous system dysregulation. The other good news is it is possible to learn how to adapt what feels not good in your system when you're doing a class that's a multi-person class. Adapt it to what does feel good in your system. So if you can't make it work to meet with a personal yoga mentor one-on-one, but through consistent practice, you cultivate a sense of what feels supportive to you versus not, it does become easier to intuitively adapt meditations, breathing patterns, etc., to what will support your balance. Long story short, struggling to meditate is not a personal failure. It's an indicator that there's something in your system that could use a little bit of help balancing. And as you find that genuine balance in your system, meditation does become easier. And so does everything else in life, but that's a different conversation. If meditation has ever felt frustrating or like it just doesn't work for you, you're not alone. That's what I love about Viniyoga, that it does meet you where you are, and that in and of itself changes everything. I'd love to hear from you. What has been your biggest struggle with meditation? Or if you found something that's helped, share it in the comments so others can benefit too. And if you know someone who said, I can't meditate, maybe send this to them. It might be the shift in perspective that they need. All right, y'all, thanks for joining today. I appreciate you. Hit that subscribe button, and we will be